This is a Windows XP gaming PC that I built in another video. While I did have a lot of fun with it at the time, I found that what I want out of a retro system has fundamentally changed. Instead of having an overpowered machine loaded up with as many games as possible, I find that I kinda just want to simplify things and narrow it down. So in today's video, I'm going to take this Windows XP gaming machine, fix some of the problems it has, load it up with Linux Mint Debian Edition, to make this PC networkable, and more importantly, a powerhouse for OpenMW. The very best way to play the Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind. Hey, these videos aren't sponsored, so I'd appreciate if you'd check out my literary magazine, The Arcanist. It's all about character-driven literary fantasy. If you're a writer, submissions for Volume 2 will be open soon, and Volume 1 is coming out in January. And we publish stuff on the blog all the time. Alright, that's all. Back to the video. So the first order of business is to just take out the RAM, reseat them, make sure everything's good. I was having some RAM errors with this machine after I was working on it, so just wanted to play it safe. Switch some things around, put them in different slots. You know, I'm also using a mix-match set here. Problems aren't exactly surprising. Next, I rearranged the PCI cards. I had put the graphics card in the bottom PCI Express slot because the top one wasn't working when I put the system together. Although, recently, after some testing, the top one's working fine now. It's one of those weird, unexplainable computer things. Maybe some edge connectors were dirty or something at the time and I just didn't know. But now, we have our graphics card in the right most powerful slot with the most bandwidth. While I had those cards out, I went ahead and swapped out the CMOS battery. Every time I unplugged the system, I was losing my settings, which was getting kind of annoying because I needed to be in IDE mode for my Windows XP install. Thankfully, that's not going to be an issue for much longer, but it's still good just to get this taken care of. All that's left is putting in a new solid-state drive that's going to hold our Linux installation. With Linux up on this thing, there's really nothing strange or obsolete about it, so I'm not going to go into detail on the Linux install, but I will link to some other videos that cover Linux installs in more detail down below. The installation had went smoothly, and we were able to boot right into LMDE. Booting into Windows XP on this device can be a bit of a chore. Every single time I want to use it, I need to go into the BIOS and I have to change the SATA controllers to be in IDE mode, which is actually in two different places. It's a bother. Now, this is a totally self-inflicted problem. If I had just taken the time to learn how to slipstream the SATA drivers in the install, I'd be able to successfully dual boot between Windows XP and Linux Mint. Now, I know what you guys are thinking. Why not just play Morrowind on Windows XP? Why go through all the trouble of adding in a new operating system and switching between them? Well, first of all, I plan on making a different Windows XP computer eventually, but there are just some problems with original Morrowind at a fundamental level. Morrowind is one of my favorite games, which means I like to play it in a particular way. OpenMW just offers so much more to the person who's going to be spending hundreds of hours over a long period of time playing this game. It has a more stable engine, it has more graphics options, it offers more consistent performance. When we take a look at the original version running on Windows XP, we see really high frame rates, 350 to about 150, sometimes it dips, but it is just erratic and it jumps all over the place. It's hard to catch on camera, but it just kind of hurts my eyes. There's also this weird audio glitch that's like a magic sound in the background, it's just constantly going. It was driving me crazy during my initial playthrough on this system. Problems like this are going to come up on the original version. Bethesda Softworks is notorious for leaving bugs in their game, Morrowind is no exception, and OpenMW will solve a lot of those things. Unfortunately, OpenMW is a 64-bit program, and they dropped support for Windows XP quite a while ago. I did play around with the idea of using an older version of OpenMW, but that was kind of proving to be a little more difficult than it was worth. When I set up these systems, I just want them to work for me to use. I don't have a lot of free time, and troubleshooting is getting beyond the scope of how I want to be spending that precious little free time. Now, I know some of you checked out when I said Linux earlier, but trust me, installing OpenMW is so trivially easy on Linux. And in Linux Mint, it's a system package maintained by the Linux Mint team. So I'm going to show you how to do it. For this example, I'm using just normal Linux Mint on my main gaming computer. It was the same exact process on the older computer running LMDE. It'll be a very similar process for you depending on what distro you're using. You're going to need to make sure you have a copy of Morrowind, either on Steam, GOG, the discs, anything works. We can install OpenMW either in the terminal, or we can even do it in the software center, which is what I'm going to show you first, because it's super simple. Just open up your software manager. I have Linux Mint. It's a system package in Linux Mint, and you just hit install. Put in your password, and boom, the launcher's there. Now we're going to open up the launcher. Click Run Installation Wizard. Then you can select between an existing installation, that would be Steam or GOG, or you can use your DVDs. See, we still get to use our cool physical media. In this example, we're using an existing Steam installation. Navigate over to your Steam Apps folder where your games are installed, go into the Morrowind directory, Data Files, and click the morrowind.esm. Once you have that selected, the installer will handle the rest. If you have Game of the Year on Steam, it will just automatically add the DLC. If you're using the discs, you're going to have to put in each disc individually. And now we're running Morrowind. That simple. Installing from the terminal is just as simple. It is one line of text, sudo apt install OpenMW. That will install the launcher, and then you can run the installation wizard like I did before. The OpenMW launcher has a whole bunch of configuration settings. You can run the game in pretty much any resolution you can think of. You can cap your frame rate. These are all modern conveniences that make it so that you can play Morrowind the way that works for you. If you want to put it on an old 12-year-old computer like I am, you can do it. If you want to play it on your 4090 gaming rig in ultra-wide setup, I'm pretty sure it'll support it. And it'll just run, and it'll just be good. Who doesn't want to just play Morrowind and have it be good? And if Linux is a barrier for you, and you're just not comfortable doing it, that's okay, because OpenMW is available on Windows. I'm pretty sure it's on Mac. Moving back over to my older computer, I'm just going to boot up into my Linux install that's already there. With my settings maxed out and the GTX 750 Ti, I'm running around Sadris Mora, and it's looking all right. A little choppy, going between 35 and 25 frames per second. However, OpenMW offers a lot more graphics tweaking, so we can take the view distance down to about half, which is still a lot farther than base Morrowind. And after that, you can see the frame rate almost doubles. My character has the boots of blinding speed, so running around this fast can also affect performance negatively. You can see as I turn towards the city, the frame rate will drop. But ultimately, this is a pretty good experience. If you were on a newer system, running modern graphics cards, you're going to have no issues here at all. You'll have about 300 FPS the whole time. Levitating and speeding through the landscape offers some pretty good performance too. We're up to the 80-75 mark just looking at the landscape. The open world in Morrowind is a lot less dense than the towns are, but I mean, look at that view distance. Even at half, you can see out into the sea, you can see distant mountains. It is just gorgeous. We can see the 750 Ti really shines in combat. A rather complex high-level battle in a volcano dungeon. I'm able to get over 200 frames per second and smoothly go through the encounter. These are the locations where you're going to be having fights like this most often, so it's nice to see that the 750 Ti can really keep up. Now, where our system is going to struggle the most is in modded areas. I really love Tamriel Unlimited. It adds a whole bunch of what should have been in Morrowind. The mod just triples the game size, if not more, seamlessly. This is the city of Firewatch, which is one of the best starting locations you can explore, and this city is much denser than what you'll find in the vanilla game. We can see the frame rate really suffers, dropping down to about 18 at times, depending on how dense the areas are. For my own use, a way that I've mitigated this was to upgrade the graphics card. The 750 Ti has 2GB of VRAM and was released around 2014. I upgraded to a GTX 1650, which has 4GB of VRAM and came out around 2019. With the 1650 in the system, we're floating between 30 and 75 frames depending on how dense Firewatch gets, but it's a lot more comfortable than dropping below 20 frames. This is also going to drastically improve performance in other areas of the game. Where you saw us kind of struggling in Sadris Mora, that is just not going to be an issue with the 1650. We can see really high frame rates floating above a landscape in another area kind of to the south of Firewatch. The landscapes in Tamriel Unlimited are a lot denser than in the vanilla game, so we're going to be seeing performance drops more often in those areas than we will in the normal game. So this upgrade really isn't necessary at all if you're running just vanilla Morrowind, but I think it is going to be a great quality of life improvement if you do want to play Tamriel Unlimited, which I highly recommend you do, because that plus OpenMW is kind of just the quintessential way to play the game at this point. That's all I have for today's video. I do have more plans for the Morrowind box. I would like to really deep clean it and put it into another case and make it more of a budget system and do a whole video about that, testing different everyday tasks. Let me know if that would be interesting to you. I'm also going to make another Windows XP computer one day. Comment down below what you think good parts would be, because I want it to be more authentic this time around. If you enjoyed this video, please consider leaving a like and subscribe. Check out The Arcanist if you like fantasy, and if you have the means, I do have a Ko-fi down in the description. Thank you for watching, and until next time, have a great day.